Welcome to Always with Awareness. I'm Awa Ladmel.
And I'm Douglas Lodmell. And today we want to talk about death. You know, this is something we just went through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, we went through a lot in the last 3 years.
Yes.
But we just went through yesterday as well. So it came up and we just thought this was a very unique opportunity to talk about it because it's something that absolutely every one of us is going to face. Every one of us. So what are your thoughts?
I'm still in the shock of it. I don't think it's still hitting me. You know, death is the the friend that is always a stranger, right?
Yeah.
Anytime he comes to visit, you can never get used to it.
Yeah.
You know, he's always a stranger to every one of us. And yet we know he's going to come visit us.
Yeah.
He's going to come invite us to follow or invite somebody that is so close to us to follow. But damn, do we not trust him? And yet, we all share him. He doesn't care how knowledgeable you are, how needed you are, how loved you are, how judged you are, how guilty you feel. It's the same for every one of us. And today I lost two of my best friends in a way that was just tragic. I don't know what words to use. I think it's tragic anytime you just feel like you're not waiting for it. That part, I think, is the tragic one. That part is the one that we never think of it. Or we think when it comes, it's going to give us so much time. But he came and visited yesterday. And in the midst of all of it, I found myself being grateful. So grateful that it even triggered a guilt. I found myself going to my bathroom looking at myself in the mirror, and instead of crying, I find myself in the irony of everything, smiling and just feel like telling God, really? Two at the same time. And one of our loss yesterday was a great friend of ours and neighbor. And I got reminded this morning by my niece who lives in New York, who said how I always emphasize that your neighbor is your family. Your number one family is your neighbor. And she said, Auntie Awa, this was for me the reminder of how you were always telling us to pay attention to our neighbors. The person that passed away yesterday was a great friend of mine. We were neighbors. And none of us knew that that's how we would say goodbye. And we want to share this just to know, at least I want to share this, to know that you will never know where, when, with whom. And at the end of the day, that's what death is. You never know why the people are in your life, why they are in your life. And death is coming to answer it. Death wants to know why the pain in your life is in your life. And it's here to answer it. Death is here to answer why the joy in our life is in our life. He's here to answer it. Why the love in our life is in our life. And death is here to answer it. He answered so many questions I had yesterday between this relationship that I share with just somebody who lived at the 7th floor with me. I could not design, even with all my love and artistic ways, the way that she passed yesterday and the role we played in her passing. I will not go through the details, but I end up having her dear husband, her dear mom that she didn't see for 10 years, 14 years maybe, her 2 kids celebrating her at dinner at my home. And I swear I couldn't cry because I couldn't have designed it that way. And she ended up being such a blessing, such a teacher yesterday of how she left behind the man she loved, the parents she longed for, the 2 kids, one turning 1 year in a month, the other one 3. If that is not the gift, it was an amazing gift. So if you can just take a little second to just think. That second for my friend, my sister, my 2 best friends, Rabia and Hanan. We say we're not going to cry.
That was yesterday.
Yeah. We're not going to cry, even though you will see tears. But one day, it'll be your tears for the people you love, or their tears for you and I. There's nothing to say about death. It's the one thing we share. I always say, there's nothing to say about sexuality. Even the flies make love. There's nothing, really, to ponder about, design differently, call it intimacy. Thinking you're the only one behind doors that do it is the same with death. Nobody knows when, where, how, with who. So this episode is going to be about you again, taking the time to go inside within you and to know very clearly that you're sure of one day and one day only. The day that that friend who will always be a stranger come and visit. And maybe we cannot prepare enough. It's just like the hurricane hitting Florida right now. For the people that it hit, you cannot prepare enough. But at least you can let go of enough. Take the time to let go of the anger, the resentment, the stinginess, the judgment. And to know when that day comes, I think it will be the last of our worries.
I thought this was going to be a lot more philosophical.
I don't feel like being philosophical today. How about being real? Because this is something real. This is not something you get to have an idea about, that you're going to fight people about. Nobody left and come back and told us. Or if it does and you're telling us, we will look at you as a crazy one. So whatever it is for you. Whatever meaning you give it, it's yours. I know we mostly ask, what is the right thing to say when somebody loses someone? And there are coaches about it, because you could say something wrong. How silly. That in that midst of everything, you want to control what people are saying about you, how fast you should let go or not let go. Everybody's just sharing their pain, saying what they feel like they could say to connect. It's just a connection. Who came, who didn't come, who said this, who didn't say that. What do you think?
You know, you can have a lot of, I have a lot of thoughts about death. I've read a lot of books about death. The book behind me is the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. Sadhguru talks about death.
A lot.
Every religion has a theory or a thought on death, because it's something that's coming for all of us. But I hadn't really experienced death until just 2 years ago. Not one person in my life had ever died that was truly close to me, that I really felt. Until my mother died 2 years ago. It was quick. Cancer, 4 months, boom. But it was, still had a notice.
Yeah.
It had a notice period where she could wrap things up, she could have her experience, we could all connect. And so I just didn't imagine what it was or how it would feel, honestly. And it was far deeper and more meaningful than I had thought. And that was not me dying.
I know.
It was someone else dying. And then a year later, my father died, and I watched him more closely because he was here with us in the house. Yeah. And I was able to really see his transformation in that last week or two, and how much spiritual work he did. It was like he went into a trance of working. He was working. I could tell he was working on stuff, and then he would wake up and talk to me about what he was working on. So I know he was working on stuff. And it's stuff that his whole life he hadn't gotten to. He had worked his whole life in a spiritual growth path and moved so far, done so much, left us in such an amazing position to carry on. And yet he had work undone, as every one of us will on that deathbed. I believe every one of us is going to go there. And it was like an accelerated path of work that he got the gift of doing, and we got the gift of seeing. And then he died, and my mother did the same. Yeah. And she had the same time. So in that sense, the cancer deaths, the slightly lingering deaths Our friend yesterday, it was the same. It was a quick diagnosis, 4 months to death.
Mm.
But there's something beautiful about having that time, knowing it's coming so present.
Yeah.
Because man, can you just drop it?
Yeah. You know, our friend that passed away is a Muslim sister yesterday, who's used to be our neighbor. And the imam that buried her did a little talk.
Uh-huh.
But he said something that I've never heard before, which he said people that died from cancer is as if they get rushed to a work that is so intensified so that they catch up. He said there is 7 heavens, and to get to that high one, they just put this gift that for us, seeing back here, looks like cancer, like something we can't see. The first time somebody called cancer can't see, that was another friend of mine who's a healer who lives in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, cancer means can't see. It's like almost something you do not want to see, do not want to work for, and yet it's just eating you behind. And finally, when that work came for our friend, what she couldn't do in 14 years of time away from her family, living here, couldn't see them, couldn't hear them, she did that work in 4 months' time. In 4 months' time, the family get reunited, the grandparents get to be with their grandkids. The friends that she lost kind of in the midst of everything got reunited. So I really tend to believe that sometimes we don't see it as an opportunity, as a gift, these elements that come to us and knock at the door like time is rushing. You have to do this work so that you can go beyond where you get stuck. Because we do get stuck as humans. We get stuck. The heart is ready to explode, but then there is this mind in between you and your next stage. And unfortunately, we surround ourselves with people that keep us stuck because they don't want to do the work either.
Right.
It's so easy to say, you're right. Ugh, that damn mom of yours, I know it's hard. Who is she to think that? Oh, your brother. Oh, your boss. Oh, I mean, come on. You the one right one and everybody else is stupid. What kind of world is that? Where you're the only smart one, the only one that get it, and everybody else is stupid. That's not the world you don't want to be either. So it's almost like you get pushed to do this work to upgrade so that you can finally move on. And if you're still doing that consciously and here, maybe there is a chance that you wake a lot of people up with you.
And that's literally what all those books talk about. That the dying process is just work, and if you can do it consciously, the amount of work you can get done is accelerated thousands of times. Thousands of times. In any way or context you want to think about that, we are here to do the work, and as the Course in Miracles says, everything that seems to happen to me, I have asked for and received as I've asked.
I know.
So it's whatever we need, we've actually asked for it, and we're doing our work around it. And I know it seems like suffering here, and no one would ask for that. But if we're looking at this in the context of a much bigger frame of reference, a much bigger world
I know.
of not just this little lifetime in this physical body, but our existence in eternity, well then, yeah, I could totally see how I could ask for a blip in time for a tough experience because I need to do some work. and it requires that.
Well, I can tell you, leaving those two kids behind told me that there was something that took her focus beyond the love that she could have for this world, for her kids and everything. And call that cancer if you want. But the peace that I saw in her face and the way she left us left me full and grateful, very grateful. So I know we want to be mad, we want to be justifying our anger and our sense of injustice in this world. But at the same time, we cannot not respect the work of our dying. Let's not take our own injustice, our own pain, and be blind of the people who are doing their work. And there are some of us that do it peacefully with the cancer. And for that, I can't be mad at cancer. Because it would be denying her own work. Because along all this work she did, with all the suffering, she was present. She took the time to organize. She took the time. She could have screamed, yelled, I don't know, say this is unjust. But when we pay attention, even in those moments that's saying, for a second, why me? They wrap up, they strengthen, and they do the work they need to do. So, in these episodes of death, the one thing we all share for sure is birth and dying. Nothing else. We don't share anything else but the joy of every one of us, whatever is in their journey. But the one thing we do share is birth and death. So today, I pledge that I will not make death the enemy, not even cancer. I think the work we have to do will remain even if we erase all ailments that could touch us. Be careful what we ask for, right? Because the work will still need to be done. And we all know what work we're talking about. This is not Chinese here. This is not us talking Chinese. I know what work I need to be doing.
Even though you look a little Chinese today.
You know, it's just we all know the work. Mm-hmm. When we say it, you just pay attention. Who comes into mind? What am I talking about that you don't want to go there? That you don't want to let go of? That you don't want to share and think is the secret? Whatever it is, when we say the work that is triggering you to want to run away, that thing that we call the work, because for every one of us, we don't know what it is, even though the end of it is just the same thing. Love all, embrace all. So funny, we have a saying, well, you can't love everybody. Why can't we? That's the question. Why can't we?
Right.
You know? So that's the work. Whatever that looks. Did you say enough to your kids you love them? Did you say your partners you love them? Were you standing for them? Were you standing for everybody else? Oh yeah. There is this one too. I am not your mom. Why should I stand for everybody else? I don't know. I don't want to sound preachy. But either way, you know your work. Take the time because we can't blame death for not having a life.
And isn't it interesting that the thing that we share that is going to do that work in the most accelerated way ever, the ego has decided that's our greatest enemy.
Oh, absolutely.
Fight death, fight cancer, longevity. Everything is about how can we beat death, beat it away. We want to cure all disease. We want to cure all problems. We want to have we want to move death as far into the future as possible. We've got people talking about living for 150, 200 years and assuming that that's absolutely the best thing. And somehow beating death is the goal.
Well,
But is it?
For sure, if it is the goal, we're not going by it the right way.
Well, we haven't beat it, so yeah, we're not doing a very good job.
We're not doing a very good job, obviously. It doesn't care. Life doesn't care how whatever we're using right now is not the right tools, right? So there got to be another way, and maybe the other way is within you. Meditate, see it, and yeah, I think we've said it. The rest is you to figure out.
Yeah. This is for each one of us to figure out. It is. I can tell you what every death in the last years has taught me, and what every thought I've had has taught me helps is seeing death as a friend and not an enemy. Seeing death itself not as a tragedy, but an opportunity. An opportunity for the person who died because they're going to where they need to be next. An opportunity for the people that they've left behind to work through what they need to work through. If we presume, if we decide, if we consciously choose to make the work we do here the priority of our life, then death should be seen as our biggest tool, our most effective tool that we can ever have, that we're going to get to use, that we can help other people use now, and not use it as a fuel for guilt and injustice and, oh, this shouldn't have happened, and, oh, it was wrong. How's that serving us? How is making death wrong serving us? That's my question. If it's serving us, show me how. And then I can decide, okay, great. Yeah, that is more of service to me than making death my friend. But I don't think it is. No one has yet come to me with an argument where seeing death as unjust and wrong has served anybody.
I think anytime we want to fight anything, what we should ask ourselves is, what are we not taking responsibility for? I think to the point of hating death or disease is that that energy we take to hate things is making us not take the same energy to take it in what we have to be responsible for.
Yeah.
And when you accept death, you have to take responsibility. When you're spending time hating it, you cannot take responsibilities for anything because you're making death now the one that should be taking care of your life.
Yeah.
I'm giving up. I'm not taking responsibility since you're coming anyway and you're bad. So here, have it. But if you're seeing it as a friend coming to knock at the door to get you ready for something, you will have time to take responsibility for your life. So today, let's see what is our fear of being sick or dying masking as something that is slowing us down and not asking us to not take responsibility for our lives. That's the question we're going to leave you with. What are you not taking responsibility for that you're taking that energy to use it as a fuel to hate or to judge?
I don't think we can say more. So thank you for joining us on this episode of Always with Awareness, where we talk about death.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.